Hello, everybody. Welcome to an episode of Find Your Model Health Podcast, the official podcast for those looking to optimize their long-term health and weight goals and understand how their body really works. I hope you're all really well today, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. And today I am interviewing someone very special that I told you about a couple of weeks ago. We're kind of going in reverse. We're going back to the topic of migraines. And today we're joined by the migraine professional. But before we go on, I must remind you that the information in these podcast episodes is for informational advice and should not be taken as medical directions. Please consult your health practitioner before making any lifestyle changes. So today we are joined by Mark Canadic. He's and I hope I pronounced that correct because I have an Irish accent, so it might come out wrong, is an integrative health coach and migraine community educator through his platform, Migraine Professional. He's the writer of The Food Triggers Guide for Migraines and Headaches, the creator of the 12-week Solving Brain Pain program. That is a tongue twister, and helped launch the Healthline Migraine app and community. When not nerding out on health, Mark is at the beach practicing falconry, which is interesting, or feeding his foodiness, which I also do. So how are you, Mark? Thank you for joining us today and giving me some of your time. I'm really grateful for this. So I would love it if you could kind of give my followers and my clients a bit of your background and what got you into such an isolated category of health, whereas focusing just on migraine and headache and stuff around that.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to kind of talk about this. This is really what I've kind of spent a lot of my time really dedicated to understanding more about it, understanding more about the people that suffer migraines and headaches. And there's all different types of us. And, it really started with my own journey when I was a child. When I was growing up, I frequently experienced migraines and headaches. I was a pretty sickly child. I was fairly sensitive to the environment. I was sensitive to foods and to smells, to sounds, to lights. And so I had all kinds of different triggers. And, at the time, I didn't really, I didn't have any ability to reason for myself, to fend for myself. It was basically just whatever my mom and dad told me to do. Sometimes it was, take a Tylenol or an Advil. It was usually just drink some water and go sleep it off. So as soon as the pain would start coming, as soon as the lights would become unbearable, the sounds would become unbearable, I would basically just go curl up into a ball in my bed and try and cut out as much of the sensory stimulus as I could and just sleep it off. Sometimes I'd be able to fall asleep. Sometimes it would bring me up to nausea and vomiting, and then I'd be able to fall asleep after that. But that was really my experience kind of growing up. And I found that slowly as I started to realize that migraines were kind of part of my whole health that was suffering. And as I started to become a healthier individual, as I started to practice healthier habits and build a healthier lifestyle, as I started to understand, what I wanted my life to look like, and I started to kind of mold myself to become the person that could have the things that I wanted my life to be. I saw my health improve, and I saw my migraines slowly fade away. They become less frequent, they became less intense, and then eventually they faded to just becoming mild headaches. And now it's kind of rare. It's rare for me to even get a headache. I haven't had a migraine in about 6 years now. Every once in a while, I like to, I've been one to kind of start pushing it pretty hard. I like seeing how far I can take my body, just because I've spent so much time kind of building it and building my health. So sometimes I'll push it really hard. And the only headache trigger that I have now is really intense exercise. So that's the last one. But it will cause maybe a light headache, if anything. Nothing like the migraines that I used to have.
Do you think,
yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you think the exercise aspect is when we push ourselves so hard, that kind of tension around the neck and the traps, just kind of constriction, you think that might be playing a part there?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think the musculoskeletal aspect of migraines and headaches is huge. I think it's really under addressed, and I think part of it is because we have unhealthy breathing patterns, unhealthy digestive systems, unhealthy organs. Because what happens is it's called viscerosomatic inhibition. So our viscera, they get inflamed, and then they inhibit our soma, which is our body. They inhibit our musculature. They inhibit our abdominals. They inhibit our lower back. And this causes instability in the system, right? Our body, our musculoskeletal system, it radiates from the inside out. Stability always comes from the core out. And when we have an unstable core, we tend to develop unstable limbs, unstable neck and head and shoulders, and this kind of radiates out. And this provides the instability for us to develop the tensions that then end up, causing or contributing to our migraine threshold and our triggers that all kind of add up together and cross our threshold and trigger us into migraines. So I think I think the musculoskeletal aspect is a big part of it. And for me specifically, it's overdoing it with shoulder or neck involving exercises. That's what really does it. And so I've been really cognizant maintaining good, strong core function. And I used to have a big history with digestive issues, and I've been lucky to come really, really far with that. And so, it's just a journey of maintaining, what I like to call the foundations that you have to keep to make sure that your body's resilient, that your body can recover, that it isn't becoming overwhelmed from just the smallest little triggers.
So you really found a holistic health, kind of whole health first approach for you helped to eliminate those. So it wasn't one thing specific per se, it was like that whole health approach of being optimal with nutrition, exercise, sleep, all that.
Mhm. Yeah, so one of the main ways that I look at migraines and headaches is from the neurohormonal perspective, and there's a good body of literature to show that the inability to facilitate strong hormonal functioning is one of the predisposers to the tendency to trigger migraines, but it's unclear which one is the cause and which one is the effect. Is it the unhealthy body that can't create hormones properly that also gets migraines, or is it the poor hormonal function that creates the unhealthy body that creates the poor or the susceptibility to migraine trigger? And so from that perspective, I think as I got healthier, I think my hormonal function improved. I think my musculoskeletal function improved. I think that as you become healthier, you improve in multiple different areas. I think when you put into place foundational aspects of health like exercise and sleep and nutrition and things like that, they have cascading effects throughout the body, right? They're dynamic. It's not a static input where you have a migraine trigger and then you take some sumatriptan and now your migraine is aborted and you're okay. It's you start exercising and then your sleep improves and your ability to tolerate stress improves and your digestion improves and your energy improves and your mitochondria improve and your brain function improves, right? So we want these dynamic inputs that have dynamic consequences that help improve our body in a number of different ways.
Yeah, you mentioned hormones there, which is something I'm talking about with my followers for the last week or two. And that on a basic level, when we improve our body and our health, our hormones are going to improve. But with that kind of notion in mind, there is the connection between estrogen or estrogen, however you pronounce it, estrogen dominance per se, being a driver of migraines. So what do you think about that theory?
So I think that we have much as a society as a whole, we have much higher estrogen levels than we have ever had before. I think we have much more access to food than we've ever had before, and I think this drives a big part of it. Now, whether it's the too much estrogen or it's not enough progesterone, some veins of thought would say that it's not having enough progesterone there to kind of offset the really strong proliferative effect of estrogen, because estrogen, we need estrogen. We need estrogen to, maintain strong bones and to facilitate strong inflammatory processes, and to build the lining of the uterus for every single cycle of your menses. It has to be there to proliferate the lining. But then we need progesterone there to kind of offset some of that, to maintain that balance. And a lot of women aren't getting that progesterone spike. They're not maintaining that progesterone over a long enough time in their cycles. So a lot of women, if they do a month-long Dutch test, they'll be able to see their hormones, over a month-long period, as opposed to just taking a simple snapshot at one moment in time and then just still kind of being confused with what's going on. Maintaining that progesterone over that latter part of the cycle, that's really important. But I think it's also just as important that the hormones are so high and then dropping off so quickly. I think that maybe the inability to tolerate the drop in the hormones, in estrogen and progesterone at the end of the cycle, is a problem, and that I think can create just as much instability. So yeah, it kind of depends on the individual and how they're tolerating their cycle, at what point in their cycle they're being triggered, and then what can really be done. Some women find that supplementing progesterone can be a big help, and in general, if we just look at hormones, I'd say that just the inability to sustain adequate levels of hormones is more of a problem for migraineurs, as opposed to having too much of all the hormones or really strong hormonal function. I'd say that migraineurs are kind of on the hypo end. They're not creating enough of the hormones, and then the ones that are creating enough of the hormones, it's really just the progesterone that is high there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that there's a balance picture.
Because a lot of women will experience those kind of PMS and even ovulation hormones, where we're getting around ovulation the spike in estrogen, and then the PMS, everything's starting to drop. So I suppose the higher the drop, so the more hormones you have and the bigger the drop, and you're less able to manage that drop, then you are putting potentially yourself in a position to bring on a migraine, because you're having kind of a bigger roller coaster downfall here, and it's going straight to your head. If we were to put it in layman's, it's like a bigger bang when you go down that roller coaster. And then of course progesterone is our more calming hormone that helps us relax, which the whole calming cycle and central nervous system aspect can obviously be helpful for managing or preventing. I hate to say preventing, but it plays an important part. Like most women nowadays are somewhat deficient in progesterone because of the stressful lifestyles we live, and we getting the whole pregnenolone steal and everything. But I do work with men, but predominantly with women, and I can definitely see a trend in those who have higher estrogen levels and the migraine, because of, like I just mentioned, that bigger drop if you were on a roller coaster, that bang as those hormones just come down.
For sure. And then it comes down to managing that and seeing, is it that we're trying to bring up progesterone at the same time, or are we just trying to kind of bring down that estrogen? Testosterone plays an important role there too. I think testosterone is migraine preventative. I think it does kind of fortify our bodies against some of the effects, some of the susceptibilities to trigger. But again, it would depend on the types of migraines, right? I wouldn't say that all types of migraines are supported by hormonal function, or specifically testosterone function, right? Yeah. Some people just have really strong musculoskeletal triggers, and that's what's doing it for them. Yeah.
What are the you mentioned this before we started recording, what are the types of migraine in your opinion? I know you said it, nothing's set in stone yet, but from your experience, what are even a couple of the different types you're seeing?
So I think the most important to start with, or the most important to know that needs to be addressed, is probably stress based, the mental and the emotional side. Because the ability to manage our bodies, the ability to manage all of the things going on in our lives, that is the most important, just from my perspective, and taking a kind of a top down approach. But not in everyone will that be the first place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Some people need to work more on the physical aspects. They want to support their bodies, support the ability to tolerate triggers and stressors before they kind of approach some of the mental and emotional things, especially when there's a long history of trauma. But I would group the mental and the emotional main triggers as kind of one part of them.
Mm-hmm.
I would group the digestive, or a gut-based. I'd group liver, and digestive, and even maybe some of the histamic migraines. I'd group them in another section, and then I'd group musculoskeletal maybe in another section. Um, there'd be a lot of crossover. Some people, it can be something simple. It can be something simple as they have a sensitivity to gluten that they haven't realized, and that gluten, they have a very specific reaction to that gluten, causing gluten ataxia, and it's basically suffocating their brain. As soon as they stop the gluten, they don't experience any more migraines, and that's great. And then there's more complicated cases where we start getting things like histamine reactions, where you're reacting to all of the fermented foods, the smoked, the dried, the cured foods, and it can even become as severe as something we call mast cell activation syndrome, which is where your mast cells, this part of your immune system, which normally reacts to allergic responses, they just start, we could say randomly, but they start randomly degranulating, and they start releasing these histamines in the body, and then we all get all kinds of different symptoms, just because the immune system is becoming overactive. It's becoming overactive or hyperactive, and it's causing these mast cells to degranulate, and then you get all these kinds of different symptoms. So then it may be more of an immune approach to it, and that immune side can be kind of multifaceted. There can be viruses that were at play there. Some people, they went through a viral infection at some point, and ever since then they've been suffering all kinds of different vestibular migraines, or different immune responses, and those are connected to their migraine triggers.
It's interesting that you mentioned the gut there. It's very rare you hear someone say, well, your gut issues could be causing your migraines. It is very rare to connect the two. I don't think many people would even connect the two, even though we're constantly told your gut is your second brain. There's a disconnect there where people don't say, okay, if my gut is my second brain, then maybe my gut is causing my mind. Like it is rare. Do you see that a lot? Do you have a lot of clients that it's their gut driving their migraine?
Yes. Yes, for sure. Definitely. And yeah, I think it's pretty, it's become part of the dominant medical model that we experience here, is that things are kind of separated. And what was initially used to kind of label or diagnose things and be able to refer properly, right? You go to your general practitioner, your GP, they give you a referral to a gastroenterologist, or they give you a referral to a neurologist. And so then those are seen as separate areas that are kind of independent of each other. That's not really the case. It's not how the body works. And the gut and the brain are constantly interacting with each other, and the gut is giving a lot of information to the brain, and it can be a major source of stress to the brain because of all of the information that it's constantly sending to us. So if we have an issue in the gut, it can be a specific, it can be we could say, a major trigger that is causing us to stay near our threshold all of the time. And then it just takes a small thing, maybe we miss a meal or we don't drink enough water that day, and then that throws us off. But really, it was the digestive issues, the digestive inflammation that is keeping our trigger levels that high.
That's like what you mentioned about gluten. Eliminating gluten may be very helpful for some people, or even the histamine. Maybe you eat some cheese. Eliminating that could be very helpful.
Yeah. So in terms of diet, um, it'll depend on the individual and the type of type of digestive issues going on. There's a good body of literature to say that maybe parasitic infections or different pathogenic infections may be contributing to some of the sensitivity to trigger, right? H. pylori have been directly associated with migraines and migraine prevalence. H. pylori is a pathogen that lives in the stomach and the upper duodenum. And this little organism it'll temper the pH in your acid, the pH in your stomach to kind of suit its needs, to create its environment, to allow other pathogens to be able to take hold. It'll dig into the lining of your stomach to aggravate your immune system, to cause a chronic inflammatory response. It'll um, you know sort of cause dysfunction in your ability to digest foods. Things like burping and acid reflux have been commonly associated with H. pylori and things like that. But obviously, you should get tested and checked out if you think that may be an issue. In terms of foods, the one of the most commonly recommended places that people will go for food elimination will be something like the histamine or tyramine foods that are high in histamines and tyramines. These are often things that are dried, cured, fermented, things that have sort of been out for a while, so that bacteria in the environment have been able to work on them. Then these bacteria and their bacterial metabolism creates what we call biogenic amines, or different types of amines like the histamine or the tyramine. And then these can be a trigger for migraines and headaches. But this is, I find that it can be more complex than this, in that it can be, things as simple as, some gluten or some dairy that we have a sensitivity to, a personal sensitivity to. It may be something like, we have lactose intolerance, and, we can just take some lactase enzymes with the dairy that we're eating. And then doesn't make that food, a trigger for us. But it can be specifically the proteins in that food that our body is reacting to, because our digestive system is starting to lose tolerance because of maybe whatever is going on inside of the gut. Our digestive system is starting to lose tolerance, and so then those foods can become sensitive. So we want to focus on, healing the gut. We want to focus on removing some of those triggers, giving more digestive supporting foods, helping our digestive system to break those foods down, right? Not rushing around when we're going through a day, not rushing around and eating while we're going, taking the time to kind of sit down, chew our food, relax while we're eating, eat in social occasions, things like we kind of used to do. And that kind of helps the digestive process to work instead of just kind of being a side process. So yeah, the kind of some of the most common things would be soy, wheat, dairy. Citruses are really common. Sometimes it's things like chocolate. It can be the histamine and the tyramine foods. Grains in general can be some of the more triggering foods. I'd also, if there is a lot of digestive issues going on, I'd be kind of more careful with FODMAP foods. This is a specific category of foods that feed the bacteria in the gut. So if there's a lot of bad bacteria in the gut, it will feed those bad bacteria just as much as it will feed the good bacteria. So this might not be a good thing. And this may just be pointing to, we got to focus on the gut a little bit more and heal the gut.
Have you found that doing these kind of elimination style diets, even a full elimination diet or a FODMAP or the elemental diet or something, have you found those to be effective for some people in dare I say, fixing their migraines?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, even some people go towards keto. Even keto can be really helpful. I think blood sugar stability is huge for migraine sufferers. Um, Especially, if you can't tolerate missing meals, I would really check out your blood sugar stability and what is causing your blood sugar to not be stable, because this can be a sign that maybe you're not fulfilling a macronutrient need. Maybe you're not getting enough protein, maybe you're not getting enough fiber, maybe you're getting too many carbohydrates. Various things. Maybe you're eating foods that are just creating immune reactions in the body, and those immune reactions are throwing off your blood sugar, right? So
Mhm.
those you want to address those. Those are really important. And I'd say blood sugar would be one of the main places to go, just because of it's going to have cascading effects throughout your body to have really good blood sugar. You're going to have smooth, steady energy throughout the day. You're going to be able to sleep throughout the night. You're going to be able to maintain a good, strong immune system. Without good blood sugar regulation, your immune system is constantly going to be taking hits. And these are all the basis to being able to stay resilient to your migraine triggers, right? Because that's what we want to do at the end of the day. We all have a certain amount of um, tolerance in our day. You know, we all have the 8 hours, the 6 hours, the 5 hours of sleep that we have to get each night. If we don't get those, we start running into lots of issues. We all have that kind of what I call wiggle room. And our goal is to just open up that wiggle room as much as we can. We do that by making the body more resilient, by building that resiliency, by building some more tolerance there in whatever the area is. That's kind of providing some of those main triggers.
There's two things I want to touch on there because you mentioned keto, um, and I'm curious. So you see people get better with keto, and what about carnivore? Because I'm thinking the amines, the nitrogen, the ammonia from all this extra meat. Not everyone is eating grass fed and pasture raised. So I feel like, would that not be slightly contradictory then? Now, I kind of know what you're going to say in regards to blood sugars and eliminating maybe inflammatory grains and lectins and whatnot, but from an outsider, it would seem kind of contradictory with the whole amines connection to driving migraines.
Hmm. Yeah, some people will have to find fresher meats than other people. Because so depending on where you go to get your meats, some meats will be aged. They'll be 30, 60-day aged, 90-day aged. And that will create an amine load that will be a problem. But
Mhm.
I would not say that just meats themselves are the whole part of the problem, or even that's just histamines or tyramines that are the whole part of the problem. I think they're just part of it. I think they're
Mm.
just part of kind of the kind of migraine picture, and they can be one of the bigger things for a subset of people
Yeah.
that is causing them to go over their threshold. Um, I wouldn't say I find as many people actually sensitive to histamines and tyramines um, as recommendations would make it seem, because it makes it seem like if you have migraines, you need to avoid everything that has chocolate or that is fermented or
Mm.
smoked, when that's really not the case. There's a lot of individuality within migraines and the people who experience migraines, and so it's much more important to focus on kind of finding out what your specific triggers are, what is actually going on, and what is prompting your body to end up with this reaction, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just a reaction to something that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I find working with my clients, like you said, the histamine can be an immune response, but I also find when they have compromised detoxification, that's where I'm going to see a higher immune response. And I'm not specifically looking for the migraines, more so the rashes and anaphylaxis and stuff like that. But when you were speaking about, I meant to bring it up when you were speaking about the histamines, I find it's a detoxification issue, which could even be connected to the hormone as well, plunge. Do you do a lot of detoxification work with your people?
So I wouldn't call it specifically detoxification. I wouldn't say that we do. I mean, it will depend on the individual, but I'd
Mhm,
say that everyone is taking part in improving the ability for their systems to detoxify.
mhm.
Yeah, every single person. Yeah, but it's not like we're doing specific things that are kind of going out of our way. Your body is constantly trying to detoxify. Your organs of detoxification are constantly trying to pee and to poo and to sweat and to breathe. They're trying to get everything out, and so we're just facilitating those. And the way that we facilitate those is by moving more and eating better and better and breathing better and drinking more but yeah, I think that that is a big part of it for sure. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that because all these specific detox plans and all they somewhat annoy me. I'm constantly saying to my clients, you literally detoxify every day. Like your body, it's about the healthier you get, the better you're going to detoxify. If you sweat from exercise, if you pee more from water, so I'm glad you said that. The other thing I wanted to ask you, I know my people are going to roll their eyes when I say this. I believe sleep is number one. It is number one over everything. Do you see a connection between people not prioritizing sleep? And I'm saying prioritizing specifically for a few people who I know will hear this, not prioritizing sleep and not getting good sleep quality. Do you see the connection there between the migraines? It's obviously the stress factor. And you mentioned you'd listened to a few of my other podcasts where I'd mentioned in them my own issues with migraine. And definitely, if I don't get good sleep, just don't come near me. And there's a chance that I am going to get a migraine because I'm going to be more like inflamed and stressed.
Mm. Yeah, I think sleep plays a big role in it for sure, especially for hormonal function, especially for overcoming the day, the previous day. And I think that there's a big I think it's part of the ability for us to feel our bodies. I think sleep, as we start to become deficient in sleep, it becomes harder and harder for us to feel what our body is saying. And then we can almost start compensating by getting less and less sleep. Same with, one of the reasons I kind of try to get people to avoid stimulants is because it blocks your body's ability to feel what is going on. Because at the end of the day, I can't be there for you 24/7, looking over what you're doing and everything that's going on, right? So I have to teach you kind of how to go about understanding what your body is saying, understanding the signs that are kind of coming out, the symbols, right? Because our body can't tell us; it's going to give us different kind of symbols and symptoms that it's trying to communicate to us through, and then we have to be able to hear those and then respond to them properly and being able to give it the right stimulus or change how we are doing things to kind of correct some of those, to course correct. And so I think sleep is a big part of that because as we become deficient in sleep, it can become harder and harder for us to see that we're deficient in sleep. Our body will start kicking up our stress hormones. It'll start kicking up our cortisol, our adrenaline, noradrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and it will start to almost mask over the tiredness, and we can just basically live off dopamine for a long time. Our body is meant to overcome those stressors. It's meant to take those stressors head on, and it should be able to, but we have to make sure that then we go and we also turn off, that we're able to turn all of that off, that we're able to go and recover properly, that we're able to come back to a normal healthy baseline where we become social again, where we can wind down before bed, where we can sleep and wake up and feel rested again, because a lot of people, they don't wake up rested, they wake up because of their alarm, and it's hard with different lifestyles, different work schedules. That is a big part of being able to heal. Just making that a priority, and choosing that over choosing some of the other things that we have to do in our life, and being able to take that on and just get 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep when we need to.
9 is my sweet spot. I can't
Yeah.
function without 9. Like sleep is, I always say sleep is the bed is the best place in the world. The gym is my happy place, but bed is my favorite place. I can't
Yes.
function without sleep. Um, what have you? I wanted to ask you, what are some of your favorite treatments for migraine? I'd mentioned in my previous episodes that I've personally found both molecular hydrogen and Botox to be very effective for me. It got to the stage where I got one migraine. It was so bad, it floored me for like 3 days. I was vomiting, I couldn't think, I couldn't walk. And as soon as I got a clinic open, I was straight up there. I got injected in my traps, in my neck, in my temples. And then since then, I haven't never had one that bad. But I found that to be effective for me. So, what are some of your favorite treatments?
Mhm. So the first and the most important thing is that if you develop a new headache or a new migraine, or your migraine or headache changes, that you go and see your doctor. That's the most important thing, because you never know when it could be something else, when it could be shifting to something else, right? You always want to go to them. You want to make sure that things are ruled out so that it's nothing more serious. In most cases, it's nothing more serious. Um, then from home, I like simple things. I like making sure that, obviously, sometimes it's just, we pushed ourselves a little bit too hard. We have to notice that we pushed ourselves a little bit too hard and, um, kind of draw a line in the sand of where we are going to push ourselves next time. Stop before it gets that far again, right? Because it doesn't matter if you take, some sumatriptan or some ginger or whatever it is, but, being able to draw the line, and call it, that's going to be one of the most important things that you do. You want to be working from your rest, not um, not working for your rest.
Mm.
Um, and but in terms of natural things, supplementary things, obviously things like ginger. Ginger is great. It's one of the simple things that you can do, super effective, whether you do it in a tea or a powder or raw ginger. You just want to be specific with your dosage. You want to find if there is a dosage that works for you. Obviously, things like CBD can be really effective for some people, but for some people it does absolutely nothing.
Mm.
um, any of these, you want to kind of try things out. You always want to, because there's no standardization in dosage, you want to see what your body does or does not respond to. A lot of people will use topically, they'll use the peppermint oil or peppermint gels. Stop Pain has a really good study on it, to actually abort pain. Um, even combining the peppermint with the CBD can be effective. And anti-inflammatories can be helpful for some people depending on the type of pain. So you're talking about your curcumins or your boswellias, your turmeric, or your boswellia. Some people will use, the more natural form of salicylic acid, the white willow bark. That can be effective for some people. But again, because there's different types of migraines, I would cater it to that type,
Mm.
right? So if you know um, you have histaminic migraines, you may work really well with some of the more antihistamines. So whether that be, prescription or over the counter antihistamines, or you're taking more natural things like your butterbur, your vitamin C, your quercetin, um, or a diamine oxidase enzyme specifically, right? It's been found that migraine sufferers are lower in diamine oxidase enzymes, which is this enzyme in the gut that kind of breaks down some of the histamine and the tyramine. So some people supplement with that, and they find that really effective. Um, but yeah, it'll kind of depend on where or what is being the main trigger. Some
Do
people just
you?
need a gut soother. They just need some peppermint tea just to soothe their gut. Um,
Mhm.
Maybe they need some electrolytes like some magnesium and some potassium, um, just to kind of um, tip the scales in their favor, so their body and their brain can recover.
What do you think of these piercings, ear piercings and stapling and stuff like that?
Mm. Apparently for some people they work. And what I've always said is that if it works, keep it working. Just keep it working. That's great. Keep it working for sure. A lot of people, they need more physical stimulation than they get, not just in terms of, exercise and movement, but they need massage. We, prior to becoming so isolated in our houses, we were all touchy-feely with each other. We were very connected. Massage is essential. Human touch is really, really important for the body. It releases the oxytocin system, and that helps to modulate inflammation, to modulate stress, to modulate the immune system. So those are really, really important. I think, lymph massage can be really helpful. For a lot of people can do their own lymph massage, massaging their lymph nodes down the neck, top of the chest, underarms, groin, really important lymph massage areas that can be really important. And I think vagus nerve stimulation, for some people, it can be very important. Your vagus nerve, it's a nerve that kind of wanders down from your brain down into your organs. It innervates your organs. It helps with everything from swallowing to digesting. And there's patented migraine vagus nerve devices. So these stimulate the vagus nerve. They're used specifically for migraines, like the gamma core. They've found to be effective. But you can do vagus nerve exercises yourself, vagus nerve stimulation, physically by physically massaging, or things like breath work and like probiotics and like gargling and singing and humming, toning. Those are all help to stimulate the vagus nerve. Those can all be really important, but they need to be done, not just once or twice. They need to be done 2 or 3 times a day, for 2 or 3 weeks, and done to the point where that nerve is, fatiguing. It's being pushed to have to become stronger at the end of the day, right? So one of I like people being able to kind of being able to measure the changes that they're making, measure the improvement, so that they have some feedback. That, right, just like we go into the gym, we measure the amount of weight that we're lifting. We have instant feedback. We can always go back and see if our body is able to meet that weight, meet that stressor, and is it stronger the next week when we come back? Because every week, we should be improving 1 to 3% minimum. We should see improvement every single week, with something as simple as exercise, but then also with all of these other things that we're doing. We want to see improvement. We want to see consistent improvement.
So like progressive overload, but for the vagus nerve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's a lot of talk about vagal nerve activity, books, everything. But back to the point you were at, is it has to be done all the time. Like, you exercise your body all the time. Health as a whole has to be done all the time, not just when you feel like it, or not just when you're getting ready for a vacation or whatever. It has to be all the time. And that, again, I partially think there's also a disconnect there with people, because so many people are chasing specific goals. You can't just do these things for a certain amount of time. It has to be forever.
Yes. I think part of the way I like to talk about it is that we are, when we start to experience migraines, we're start to, not for everyone, but we're starting to experience a mismatch between what our genes are asking for, or our epigenetics have been trained for, and then what the stimuli is that we're giving those genes, right? Because our genes have specific, key locks, and through the things that we do every day, through our environment around us, through how our environment impacts us, those keys go into the key locks and they open up our genes so that our body can function properly. We were constantly exposed to, historically, we were constantly exposed to changes in temperature, to changes in food availability, to constant movement, not just going to the gym for 20 minutes, but consistent movement all day long, right? Our body is a pumping machine. It's constantly working at pumping itself, right? Not just pumping to provide oxygen, to provide nutrients to places like the muscles and the brain, but also to be able to detoxify all of the waste that's being created by our cells. Because our body, we have two fluids in the body. We have blood and we have lymph, and blood has a pump, right? It has the heart there to pump it, but the lymph system, it requires movement. It requires good breathing, good strong breath. It requires movement. It requires muscular contraction to pump itself so that our body can drain and can kind of take out the waste and circulate itself properly.
So when people come to you, if someone was to contact you, am I correct in saying you help them decipher what's going on, what type of migraine or what the cause is, and then come up with some sort of approach or plan to address this and start fixing things?
So people come to me for a variety of things, not just migraines and headaches. It can be all kinds of, because I talk a lot about digestive issues and hormonal issues and things like that. They come to me for a variety of things, and everyone goes through kind of an assessment, and through this assessment, we kind of help. We're trying to understand everything that's going on and how those are impacting, the way that our body is expressing itself today, and then we go about putting a plan into place to see what we can change and how we can go about creating behavior change over the next 1, 2, 3, 4 months. Right. On top of that, if it's something like migraines, we're doing the simple things that we can just get easy, quick wins today. But a lot of the things are, trying to figure out what are the triggers, whether they be triggers for your digestive dysfunction or triggers for your headaches or migraines, and then helping to go through the process of education, because a lot of it is just education, just understanding why is the body doing this, what else can we do to kind of compensate, support our body so that it can do it better next time.
And you're hoping to see improvements as fast as possible in regards, if it was just chronic migraines, we're hoping to see improvements as fast as possible there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One last thing, because I know you're in Toronto and I mentioned I'm in Alberta. A lot of people here will experience a lot of pressure changes and migraines due to Chinooks, and it's very, very dry here, not like it would be in Toronto. Do you see a big kind of weather factor? I know you work with people everywhere. Do you see like different areas experience migraines based on different weather patterns?
How do you mean? Like I understand the barometric pressure migraines.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I suppose what I'm asking is, I don't know if you've many clients in Alberta, but do you see, I would expect that if you had a lot of clients in Alberta, you would probably see more headaches associated with weather changes in your clients from Alberta than you would in Toronto. It's probably not a big thing in Toronto, is it?
When I kind of look back, I don't see as many weather or pressure change related migraines as I would expect to see. Maybe because I don't talk about them as much, but I don't see that many of them. So I wouldn't be very, very good at kind of commenting, especially on the difference between areas.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Because we have the Rocky Mountains here as our backdrop. So it actually is a hot topic. When we get a Chinook coming over, people will take pictures of it. It'll be all over Facebook. And then as you scroll through the comments, it's like, oh yeah, my head was telling me something was coming, or yeah, the migraine's killing me today. And it'll be a lot. It'll be like nearly every comment. Someone has either felt a Chinook coming or they're feeling the impact. So it probably is more dominant here because we have this setup that we have, and it's very dry here too. But just all these different areas for people to suppose consider could be driving their migraine. Like it's great if you can decipher what's definitely yours. I can 100% say migraines for me are triggered by chronic blue light exposure and stress. Like they're my two triggers. If I can limit those, I'm doing great. But I know not everyone has that kind of blessing to be able to pinpoint what is driving theirs.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think the eyes are an extension of the brain too. They're directly connected, they're directly plugged into the brain. And so when our eyes are going through stress, this can be a big source of trigger for the brain. It's a lot of added kind of inputs, and it's kind of like when you open too many tabs on a computer. At some point, things start lagging because there isn't enough processing power there. And so, as we've seen with I think it's clearest with migraines with aura, that there is kind of a energy generation issue in the brain that is kind of contributing this. A lot of people attributed to mitochondrial issues inside of the brain, and the mitochondria just being unable to create a steady sort of supply of energy to process all of these inputs that are going on. So yeah, reducing as much of those excessive inputs as possible can be, just easy wins for people. But with some things, it's easier than others, right? It's easy to cut down on blue light, but it's a lot harder to deal with barometric pressure changes. But some people have had to. Some people, that's been their one and only trigger is the barometric pressure change, and they live in an area where they're unfortunate and they're constantly getting those, and they have to move. Um, just like some people, it's mold that is their main trigger, and mold is, mold creeps into their house. It gets into an area. Maybe they have a leak or something, and they have to leave their house because their body is just going to fight every single day because living in a moldy home is completely detrimental to the body, especially once it's become sensitized to it.
This stuff can be life-changing. I couldn't imagine having to move because I was getting chronic migraines. Like that is life-changing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for spending some of your day with me. I know we've been trying to set this up for a while. Can you tell my followers where to find out more about you and what you do? I know you have some amazing blogs up, and I follow you on Instagram. So please tell us.
Yeah, so it's just Migraine Professional on all the channels, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook. Yeah, just check us out at Migraine Professional.
Yeah. And I noticed you have a free ebook as well on your page, on your website, which could be very beneficial for a lot of people to check out as well.
Yeah, we have a couple. So we have the 5 factors that trigger your migraines, and then we also have the 5 mistakes of hormonal migraines, specifically for hormones. If you're experiencing migraines that are hormonally related, you'll want to check that one out.
Yeah, or even if I would recommend, even if you believe, if you don't know for sure, even if you think it might be hormone, check out that ebook then.
For sure, for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, for giving us some insight, some more insight into migraines, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Chavain.
Thank you for joining us.